Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Amina. I feel like it was just yesterday when I came on here and I was like, I had a baby, guys, and he's already 15 months or so. So it's crazy. It feels like time's gone so fast, but really slow at the same time. But today I'm gonna do a video that I did a few months ago about how I teach my 1-year-old. So Sufyan turned 1 at the end of April. I don't count age in months. I think that's so weird. He was 1 in April, work it out. I think it's like 15 or 16 months, I don't know. Yeah, so he turned 1 and I did a video, I think when he was 9 months, on like how I teach him and the things I do and the things I've implemented in our day-to-day routine to help him learn in a natural way. So he's not in school, he's too young for most traditional learning styles, but definitely tried to implement a few things based on like a bit of knowledge that I know and what I saw my parents do with me and what I feel like works, I guess. This is my favorite age. Like if you're a mum or a parent, then let me know what your favorite age is, but so far this is my favorite age. He has so much personality. He's starting to tell me what he wants and indicate to things and actually use like a few words here and there, and it's just so much fun to see his character and see him grow and just become an actual human. Like sometimes we just look at him and we're like, this is our child. Like, it's actually crazy to think that he's such an independent human now, whereas when, you know, when they're young they're so dependent and, you know, they're just a baby. But now there's so much character and fun and adventure, and I'm really enjoying this age. We all know how kids at this age, anything, you know, up to about 10 years old, but especially in the sort of 0 to sort of 5-6 years of age, they're just sponges. Their neural processing is happening so fast. They're picking up so many new skills. Like from the age of 0 to about 2 years old, they're learning to crawl, to walk, to distinguish color, to see, to hear, and then to eat food, to swallow. Their reflex, their gag reflex develops. They let their teeth come out. They learn how to sleep independently. They even get potty trained. Imagine you learning all of these things in just 2 years. It's a lot. It's a lot for them to take. There's so much learning happening in this time, and I think their brains are just so used to it that if we add a little bit more to that, you know, I think it's a good thing. I think it's a positive thing. So anyway, I thought I'd tell you about a few things that I do in my day-to-day life to help him learn, and a few things that I'm quite explicit and I'm quite purposeful with what I do. I'm quite aware of like what I do in order to try to help him learn and try to help that process be a bit more, I guess, intentional. And as you'll come to see, none of these things really, I think maybe just bar one thing, none of these things cost a single penny. They just take a bit of effort, a bit of time on our part as parents, and a little bit of care and consideration and a bit of time off of our phones as well. So the first thing, I don't think it's any surprise, is the use of books and conversation. Books are probably, I would say, if I can just say one thing and just like leave this video there, that's all I would say, books. Books are probably the best tool that we have as humans. I love reading personally. That's just something that I've always enjoyed from a young child, and it's something that I've really made such a concerted effort to implement with Sufyan from the moment he was born. I was reading books to him before he could even see color. I remember my parents were like, what's the point? Even though they're huge book advocates, they were like, just wait for him to be 6 months old, a bit older. He's gonna know what a book is when he's 2 months old, when he's 1 month old, I don't care. And it made such a difference, because when he was like fussy or when he's a bit bothered or tired, I just get a book out and he would just sit in my lap and he would just he's very comforted by books, and that's because that was what I used to comfort him as opposed to any other technique. Books help so much with confidence levels, with vocabulary, with imagination. They also help with feelings as well. I'm sure that when you read a book, you see that it says something like Jack feels happy or whatever, and they understand what happy means and they can associate their feelings with the feelings of the characters in the book. The kind of books I choose now at 1 year old are books that are like have shapes, have sort of faces, emotions, 1 or 2 words, sentences. So I'll choose books that have like plenty sentences on the page, because, you know, we don't want just 1-word books. I struggle with 1-worded books because I just don't know what to say. So I prefer books that have sentences and we can kind of read around that. Short storylines that are easy to understand. Animals, he recognizes a lot of animal sounds now, so any animal that's there would be great because it encourages like patience, alphabet, things like that, like things where you're actually kind of learning something as opposed to just like a storybook. I think a bit better for like older children who have that vocabulary already. And I've spoken about this before, pre-child, I always go to the library. I don't buy books. Okay, it's a lie. I bought 5 books the other day. But I mean, like, I don't buy books that I know that I don't necessarily want forever. Like, what I do is I buy a book when I know that I want it to be in my collection. For him, I want him to have a rotation of different books and not get bored of the same book. So we'll keep a book, we'll repeat it like 20-30 times for a couple of weeks, and then we'll get a new one. And I think the library is an amazing tool for that, and I'll talk more about libraries in a bit. But definitely, if you haven't gone to your local library, get a library card. It's for free, and they love libraries. It's so much fun. Let them run around and roam around, and it's just such a great activity to do. The second thing that I'm using to teach Sufyan is screen time. Well, I'm not using screen time, but I'll tell you how I use screen time. So I think in my last video I said that he doesn't get any screen time, and that was when he was 9 months old, and he didn't get any screen time until he was around 12, 13 months or something. The last 2 months or so he's had a little bit. We do not own a TV, and that's something that I've been quite like strict about. And you know, it wasn't really hard, to be honest, because we don't watch TV, so it wasn't that difficult at all. No TV means there's no option essentially, and you only have the phone as an option. So what I do is when he is maybe like eating, or I've got to get ready and I've got 5 minutes or something, and I just want him to sit down, just kind of stay still. But yeah, not usually that. To be honest, it's mostly when he's eating. I'll just put something on, but I'm quite specific with what I put on. So I'll put on an Arabic show, like an Arabic cartoon. There's one called Siraj. It's so good. The Arabic is beautiful. It's like modern standard. I guess modern. It's like Fusha Arabic, which is like quite standard Arabic, quite childish. And what it does is it goes through every single alphabet one by one, and it has like a storyline. It has 2 characters. They talk about like the alphabet. They talk about different words that has that particular alphabet at the starting point, and then they talk about like the ba, the a, e, and u sound for each of those alphabets. And I love it because I understand it because it's such simple Arabic, and it's nice because I'm learning something as well, and he gets to pick up some Arabic along the way. Never watch Coco Melon or all of any of the, I find them very like, let me know if you're a parent, like Coco Melon or whatever those shows are called. I find them very overstimulated, like personally for me as an adult. I find them very overstimulating. Like there's colors, there's sounds, it never ends as well. Like there's no song, that makes sense. With other story, like, you know, Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, whatever, it finishes. There's no ending to Coco Melon, like it just keeps on going. Yeah, I just find it quite overwhelming for myself, to be completely honest, and I think I'd probably go insane if I had to listen to that. So yeah, we don't play that. We play, another thing that I put on sometimes is books that are being read out loud, so like audio books, so something like The Hungry Caterpillar. Oh yeah, also I hate, no offense, but I really don't like the American accent. No offense to any Americans, I'm sorry, but I just don't like it. Like it's really like nasal, it's really strong. I couldn't deal with Coco Melon, I'm sorry, I can't. So books that are narrated, so for example The Hungry Caterpillar is narrated, I'll leave the link for it down below as well. It's narrated by a British person, so I feel it's a lot more calming to the ear, and there's no animation. It's not like animation, it's kind of just like illustrations. Sufyan loves it. He's pretty much memorized it, and it's like 3 minutes long, and it just means that there's a fixed amount of time. It's not like never ending, and we don't just keep on watching things after and after. But it helps not to have a TV, because it means that once it's done, you're just like, okay, finish, done, and there's no issue there. So yeah, so screen time, I have started to introduce it a little bit, probably like maybe 10 minutes in a day or something, not even that sometimes. But like I said, it's quite intentional, and it's with a purpose. So the purpose for me is give him something different to look at, but also to pick up some Arabic as well along the way. So I think that works out quite well. Let's be completely honest, you can't be screen time free forever. It's just not going to happen. I think you should have limits, and a lot of research shows that, and I don't know why it's such a debated topic. I'm not sure why people debate it, because it's like smoking. We know smoking is bad for you. That's just a fact. We know TV is bad. TV and screen time is bad for kids. That's a fact. We know it's bad for us. That's a fact. Like, I think people just take it too personally, and they think that's an attack on their parenting, but it's not an attack. Like, it's just bad for you. Like, this is what it is. So anyways, that's the screen time situation. So yeah, I just find that with screen time, I'm just a bit more intentional about it, but I'm not like anti it. The next one is rote repetition or repetition. So rote repetition had some negative backlash, but it can be used positively at this age range. So rote repetition is basically repeating something without actually understanding the deep meaning of it. So for example, when kids sing the ABC, the alphabet, like A, B, C, D, whatever, they have just memorized that, or when they sing 1, 2, 3 or numbers, or like I can say French numbers up to like 10. I don't know how to apply them in a sentence, but I can say it. So I've just basically just memorized it. And rote repetition is basically learning at a very surface level. So essentially just memorizing. Now, I use it quite a bit with Sufyan because I think at this age it's quite useful for just picking up vocabulary and just like repeating things again and again and again. A lot of teachers use it in school, and that's when it's not that great. I mean, like I said, it has got a lot of like bad stick in educational research because, you know, it doesn't at all encourage depth or in-depth of learning. But despite this criticism, like I said, I think for a younger age range where they're still picking up vocabulary, anything is great, really. Like, it doesn't really matter how they pick it up as long as they pick up the vocabulary. So some things that I use rote repetition for are identifying animal sounds, or like animals, the alphabet, numbers, pointing to different parts of the body. So if I say, Sufyan, touch your head, he'll touch his head. Touch your nose, he'll touch his nose. Touch your eyes, he'll touch his eyes. He can do that, but he doesn't actually understand that these are my eyes that I see from. Like, he doesn't understand the concept of what eyes are, which is what the in-depth understanding is, but he can touch his eyes. And it's purely because of repetition. Like, it doesn't mean anything. It's because like every single day I'm like, touch your eyes, and I do it, and that's why he can do it. Another one is like, I ask him how old he is, he'll say 1, like he'll show me 1. Again, he has no idea what that is. He has no idea what age is. All he knows is when I say, how old are you? He does that. that's pretty much it. But over time, he'll understand that that means 1, and then next year that is 2, etc. So those are some things that I use repetition for. And like I said, you're a parent with a young child, like 1, 2, great to use it. It's great to like teach songs and things like that you just want memorized, really. But if they're a bit older and they need to actually understand concepts, then it's definitely not something that you want to use. The third thing is activities and experiences. Again, there's no better way of learning as an adult or as a child than to actually do the thing that you want to experience and do the thing that you want to learn. One thing that I've missed so much from, you know, everything going on and like the lack of traveling is not being able to go abroad and not be able to learn about like different cultures and like taste different foods. And that's something that I feel like I've lacked so much from like my learning in the past like 2 years or so. But for kids, there's so much on their doorstep from where they can learn and from activities that they can do. So some of the things that we do are we go swimming, we go once a week. We go swimming for about 4 months now. We go together, so I go inside as well. It's a swimming class, it's an actual lesson. They are about half an hour long once a week, and I find that some lessons are a waste of a lesson. We go in, he just clings on to me the whole time and we go out. But what I've noticed is that over time that doesn't happen anymore. So over time he's actually getting more confident, he's kicking his legs, he swims unassisted. Well, for me, he can swim with, obviously he's not unassisted completely. He's got a, what do you call those, floaty. He's got that around his waist, and if I let him go, he'll kick a little bit and he'll actually go somewhere, which is cute. And it's like, it just shows progress and it just shows like learning. And I think learning, to me, like learning isn't just ABC, learning at school. Learning is learning about so many different aspects. It's learning skills, it's learning to ride a bike, it's learning to drive a car, it's learning, all these things are learning. The earlier you begin, the better. Another thing that we've been doing is going to like parks and museums as well. And we went to the Tate Modern, just on a whim. I just left the house. I literally left the house, got on the tube, like I looked at the map and I was like, where should I go? And then I thought, the Tate is somewhere I was on the Jubilee line, and the Jubilee line is quite accessible because obviously they have lifts and stuff. So I was like, what's here on the Jubilee line? And then there was the Tate. So I got off, it was the Embankment or something. So yeah, got off there, went to the Tate, and then came back. You think that it isn't child friendly. I mean, for the most part, like it isn't the most 1-year-old friendly museum. You can easily go to the Science Museum. But they actually had like a little child kind of display, and they had these cards and binoculars that they could use. So they did adapt some things for him, and I think it was nice for him to just see the different things that were available. I kept him in the pushchair though, because in the Tate, everything's kind of just open in there. So I didn't want to run around after, so I left him in the pushchair. But then when we went in the kind of open space, I let him go and like run around basically. So yeah, try out different museums. All museums will have something for kids, even if it's not a kid museum like the Science Museum or the Natural History Museum. There will be something that they can do, and I think, you know, exposing them to experiences that are beyond their years is always a good thing. The next one is imitation. So I've been teaching Sufyan through imitation. Again, every single person teaches their child through imitation, whether you try to or not, because that's just how kids learn. But just be aware of it. Imitation is a way that children learn, especially at that young age. They want to match you and they want to do what you're doing because it helps them with their social and cultural development. And this is also how animals learn as well. They copy their parent. What I've been quite aware of is sort of what I'm doing in front of him, and I'll do things that I want him to copy, and I won't do things that I don't want him to copy. There was a bit of research that I saw when I was looking for stuff for this video, and there was a study and they showed a parent touching a light bulb, and it was an 18-month-old, and that was it. Touched the light bulb and the light bulb turned on, that was that. And then a week later they brought that same light bulb to the child, and the child touched it in a way that imitated and mimicked what the parent did a week before. So even with that week delay, the child had already picked up that this is where you touch it, this is what happens when you touch it, this is what to expect. And that was even just with one time, and then with a whole week, you know, in between. There's quite a lot. I mean, there's so much research that shows that imitation is really a big, well, it's pretty much the best way that we learn. Even as adults, we want to imitate others, and that's, you know, it's seen as a negative thing, but actually it's quite a good thing because it teaches you what is acceptable and also what isn't. So one thing I tried the other day is to read a book. I know, sounds crazy, mind-blowing, right? I bought some books, and I just took the book and I just sat in his room, and he was like playing, doing his thing, and I just picked up my book and I just started reading. And I thought, I don't get time to read anymore. It's really hard to find time to just read for leisure and pleasure. So I thought, let me see if I can read whilst he's just playing and just doing his own thing. So I got a book and I started reading, and I got a bit tired. I lay down. I started reading lying down. He was kind of trying to grab my book a little bit in the beginning. I stopped him, and then as time went, he got his own book and he laid down like next to me. So I was lying down on my side. He lay down on his side and he was reading his book as well, like that. And it was just so cute, and he basically imitated me. Like, he's never done that before. I've never done it in front of him before. It was just so cute, and it just goes to show, you know, that firstly, there are ways that we can make time for ourselves even when your child is there. But secondly, that, you know, imitation is such an important way way of teaching your child how to do things and letting them learn how to do things as well. When I'm loading the washing machine, I will load some clothes and I'll give him some clothes, so he'll see me throwing it in and he'll like throw it in as well. And these are like really basic things that normally I'll say, go stay away, I'll do it. But actually I make more of a point now to let him be part of it and let him see me do it and then also do it himself as well. It never goes to plan, he always makes a mess, but that's part of learning. And then last but definitely not least is through routines and habits. So I'm teaching him through setting boundaries and setting routines and expectations that he knows are going to happen. And so it just makes the whole process a bit easier. It takes away the tension, it takes away the friction of that task. So for example, let's say bedtime, we go into his room, we change him, brushes his teeth, he gets into his sleeping bag, and then he goes into his bed and then he falls asleep. So that is the routine. And it's to the point now where if we're in the living room and I'm like, okay, it's bedtime now, he actually leaves whatever he's doing, he'll go to his room and just like go on top of it, and then he'll actually try to climb into the cot, and he gets quite annoyed if you don't let him go in straight away, even though I still need to like change him and stuff. But the fact is that he understands that that is the routine and it's an expectation. So I'm not trying to drag him to bed every night at different times and you know whatever. It's such a routine now and it's like the same time every single night. And you know, forget kids, we as humans, as adults, we thrive off of habits and we thrive off of routines. It takes away from the memory that you need to the working memory. It takes away from the load of that current moment where you're just thinking, right, what do I need to do? Okay, so I need to do that first. But actually, if you have a routine, you have a schedule of how you do things, it just juices that friction and it makes the whole thing, the whole task so much easier. I've talked about habits so much on this channel. I don't know if you're new to the channel, maybe you probably haven't heard me talk about it, but I've talked about habits so much on this channel, and you know, the value of being a habitual creature to a certain extent is really it's really valuable. And it's important that for kids as well, things don't go to plan. Okay, there 2 nights ago he had a very late nap, which I just allowed because I thought, you know what, he's tired, I'm not gonna stop him. He had a really late nap, like 3 hours later than he normally does. I would never have allowed it normally. Normally I'll keep him up, but I was like, you know what, let him just sleep. So I let him sleep and it ended up going to bed at 11 o'clock. He normally goes to bed at 7 to 8. So that was a complete change of routine, but it was okay. It's one night, it's not a big deal. But for the most part, your routine should be quite consistent. It may change or get messed up if you go out or you know, you stay out somewhere late. For the most part, there should be some sort of routine that your child expects. It really does make them a lot happier. And one thing that I've learned from working in a school and teaching as well is that kids, when everything's disrupted and things change, behavior gets really bad. We notice it quite a lot, especially now that like students have returned after having a lot of time off because of pandemic. When they came back, the behavior was really bad, and a lot of it was because they just weren't in that same routine of waking up in the morning at a certain time and doing this at a certain time and having lunch at a certain time. It all live in different households, so their routines were very different. And so being thrown into this fixed routine again after so many months, they really struggled with it. And this is, you know, we're talking about 16-year-olds. So imagine a 1-year-old. It's really important that we set those routines, and ultimately, like, you are the parent, you can set them. A child can't override you. So it's really important that we do our best to set routines and to be habitual, and it takes effort on our part, but it really does work. But yeah, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. This is what I do. You might do things differently, you might disagree, you might think I could do it better. Sure, I can, and I'm sure things will change as well. There are things that I did at 9 months that I don't do now. There are things that I do now that I probably won't do in 6 months time or will change up in the future. And you know, I'm a first-time mum, I'm learning as I go along. I don't know everything. I'm definitely not perfect by any means. I definitely have things that I wish I didn't do, but this is what works for me, and I think it's something that maybe if you're struggling with, you can try to implement something a bit different, or if you just want to change things up a little bit, maybe use one of the things I suggested to help learn. And like I said, all these things are free. Like, they're not things that you have to buy. None of these things you have to purchase. These are all free things that you just implement in your day-to-day life. A 1-year-old doesn't need anything except for you and your presence, your emotional presence, and your stability. At this age, like, they don't need anything else. So yeah, I hope you found this helpful. I hope that you enjoyed it. I'll probably do one again in maybe like 6 months time for a 1.5 year, or maybe like a 2 year. I can't believe it's gonna be 2 years soon, but probably do one again for like 1.5 years. And I might try to put a few clips if I can get him to sit still and not look at the camera. I will see if I can get a few clips that I can pop in. But if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give me a huge thumbs up, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.